And again, we welcome you back to Center Ice Arena here in Traverse City, Michigan. 3-0 lead. Red Wings over the New York Rangers. And joining us now, former Red Wing player, a member of the grind line, working in management with Detroit right now, Kris Draper. Kris, pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Great to be here, and obviously so far so good through 2 periods with the results that we have going on right now.
Well, Art and I, first of all, we were talking about you scoring your first National Hockey League goal before you scored your first junior goal and American League goal. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. It was well. Obviously, I played with the Canadian Olympic team. So then from there, I ended up signed a contract with the Winnipeg Jets. I went to Winnipeg Jets training camp with all intentions of being there for maybe a week and then being sent down and starting my OHL career. But shockingly to myself, I ended up making the team. And then in my first NHL game, I scored against Toronto. Then I got sent down for a 2-week conditioning stint with Moncton Hawks in the American Hockey League. Scored my first game there. And then I actually ended up getting sent down to the OHL for the Ottawa 67s, and I scored my first goal in my first game there. So actually my NHL, American League, before I scored in the Ontario Hockey League. So a little bit different, but obviously a very good trivia question. The only player to ever do that, and probably the way that things are set up here, probably the only player to ever do that.
Let's talk a little bit about this Prospects Tournament, and it's a little bit strange because when you were playing with the Red Wings, not many of the young players would come out of a tournament like this or training camp and make the team because you guys had a lot of veteran players and there weren't many spots open on the team. But now it's a little bit different, isn't it?
It certainly is. First of all, this tournament, I've been doing this now for 7 years. There wasn't a rookie tournament when I played. There wasn't development camps when I played either, when I was younger. But, watching not only our prospects, but the other 7 NHL teams, it's a great tournament. You wheel around. Everyone really enjoys this. But for us, when we would come up to training camp, our first year up here was 98. We had just come off winning the Stanley Cup. So you kind of realize that, there weren't going to be too many opportunities to make the Detroit Red Wings. Obviously, that's when there wasn't a salary cap, so we could go out and sign free agents, and obviously Ken Kal did a fantastic job with that by adding free agents. And so with that said, there wasn't a lot of room for rookies and young players to come up and make the Detroit Red Wings. So it had to have been tough being a prospect for the Detroit Red Wings, knowing that the team is where it's at, and then obviously every summer they go out and try to add, the top free agents that they could. Now it's a little different, and certainly with the situation we're in right now, I think the industry realizes where we're at. I think Red Wing fans realize where we're at. We're trying to build this up through the draft, and the exciting thing is that we have some good prospects that are playing this week for us. I've been approached by a lot of teams and even some, agents and advisors, and very complimentary of the pool of prospects that we have coming right now. So we were excited about last year's draft at the time, certainly through development camp, and now in the prospect tournament as well. The players that we were hoping that would have big showings and strong showings have certainly done that. So I think that's an exciting time for Detroit Red Wings and Detroit Red Wing fans. But with that said, we still have to be patient. We have to be realistic with where we're at. But it's fun to watch the Zadinas and the Rasmussen, the Chalowskis, and the McIsaacs. I thought Caden Fulcher was great the other night in net for us. So we got some Giovanni Smith has been a force physically. So we have some good things coming. But we have to realize that this is only a prospect tournament, and they're going to get great looks in preseason for Jeff Blashill and the Detroit Red Wings, and then from there we'll make an educated decision on what's best for all our prospects.
We're talking with Kris Draper, and Kris, I know over the last year and a half, you've been really busy. You've been traveling all over, watching different players play, not only the guys that you drafted, but other players that were involved in the draft. What's it like, from your point of view, to be able to be on the road and watch these guys play, and what do you look for?
I'm excited. I'm thrilled to be able to work on the amateur side. Ken Holland's been awesome with me, really kind of patient and see which way I wanted to go, and I've really gravitated towards the amateur side, realizing how important the draft is for our hockey team, for our organization. It's great. I mean, I've already started, preparing for Vancouver. I spent a week out in Edmonton and Red Deer for the Gretzky Holinka tournament. And I'm here to tell you that this is going to be another great draft. This is a deep draft. Everyone is very familiar with Jack Hughes and what he can do, but there's there's some good young players. There's some big, strong centermen that are out there, and we're going to go through the Prospect Tournament training camp, and then pretty well middle of September. The CHL starts up, college hockey starts up, and then you get on the road and you start tracking these players. You watch them at the Gretzky Holinka, and you kind of gravitate to something that you like, and you kind of build your schedule around that. You want to go see these top end players probably a good 8 to 10 times, to educate yourself on where it's going to be. But for me, obviously, I love skaters. A big fan of, and speaking of skating, Joe Veleno, obviously, a real smooth skater. He's been good again this afternoon for us. I love skaters, and I love watching great hockey players compete. And I think when you have the compete and the passion for the game, and obviously the way that you can skate and the pace of the game and where it's going, those are the things that you have to do. So those are probably what I look for, and I think, when you put all those together and you throw hockey sense into it, chances are you have a first overall pick, a Jack Hughes, Rasmus Dahlin from last year. Those are the type of players. But, it's fun to go out and it's fun to watch. It's fun to educate yourself not only on the players that we're going to draft, but obviously the players that are throughout here in the tournament, and just, be ready for whatever we can do.
I think back when Steve Yzerman was drafted in Detroit, the team was not very good. Stevie came along 1983. But I try to tell Red Wing fans that this is kind of like 1983 again, where you look at Yzerman, you look at Fedorov and Lidstrom, guys that were drafted, and they all came up basically together, and the fans embraced them. Do you see the same thing happening right now with guys like Zadina and Axel Holmstrom, McIsaac, and Rasmussen and Veleno?
We hope so, yeah. Now, when you start talking of the Yzermans and the Fedorovs and the Lidstroms, those guys, they're in the rafters at Little Caesars Arena and all Hall of Famers. So, obviously, I think there's luck involved in the draft too. Really, we feel right now, obviously, pretty fortunate with where we got Zadina in the draft. I think a lot of people at the time had him higher. The industry kind of had him higher. We had him higher, and next thing you know, when the Detroit Red Wings are selecting, he's right there for us. So it looks like, with the way we have right now, the thing I like about him is, and what we just talked about, he looks like a passionate hockey player with high-end skill. And when you kind of put those combinations together, you're going to have a chance to have be a real good hockey player. And then from there, we're going to wait and see. Every year, these great players, they find ways to get better. They find ways to stay better. When you watch Crosby, when you watch McDavid, when you watch these players, they just find ways to always be great. And that's something that looks like Zadina has that. And that's, there's just kind of that it factor, and it seems that he has it. So it's fun to watch that. But, we have to get lucky. You have to get lucky in the draft. You look at Dallas. Dallas jumped up. They ended up getting Heiskanen. You look at Carolina jumped up. They ended up getting Svechnikov. I mean, you have to, at the draft, you have to get a little luck in the lottery. So hopefully for the Detroit Red Wings, and we're obviously we're going to sit back. We're going to cheer as hard as we can for the Detroit Red Wings. We want them to win. We want them to compete. We want them to be successful and make the playoffs. And that's what we want to do. But in the end, we have to get some luck around the draft, and we have to continue to keep adding to what we have. We think we have some good pieces coming. It looks like these guys, have a real good chance to be National Hockey League players. How good are they going to be? That's going to be determined. But we need them to basically, overachieve, be better than what we think.
Take us back to the draft in Dallas. And I know the Red Wings were trying to bolster their defense. They were looking at defensemen. But when a guy like Zadina and Veleno are out there on the board, you got to take them, don't you?
Yeah, we did. I mean, what we do is we go off a list. We basically put together, I think we had our top, I think it was a top 40 list that we put together. Our list, what we thought was going to be, 1, 2, all the way up to 40. And basically we're sitting there on Friday night, and as names are getting called, we're just kind of scratching them off the board. And obviously the name that we had the highest with pick 6 was Zadina. And there it was, and we obviously, no hesitation, went up and we took him. We know there was some good D-men that were still on the board there, but how our list was, and we felt Zadina was obviously a real special player. And how hard it is to score goals in the National Hockey League, we had to take him, and that's exactly what we did. And then you just keep sitting there. We had two firsts. So we're just sitting there, and names are going off the board. We're scratching them out, and next thing you know, there's Veleno, and that's how we ended up getting Veleno at 30. And then obviously the first defenseman that we took was McIsaac.
And he looks good.
I think he looks really good. I know Ken was he was out at in Kamloops for the U20 Team Canada camp, and he had a real good showing there, and he's carried it on into here, and he's doing a lot of good things. He can skate, he can move the puck, he competes, he's physical. So those are, and obviously I think every Red Wing probably saw the highlight of Berggren scoring that unbelievable goal over the weekend. So we look at the first four that we have. We feel that we really took advantage of the picks that Ken Holland got us, and that's what we have to continue to do. As the picks keep coming our way, we have to select well, we have to draft well, and then we know that both Dan Clear and Sean Horkoff are going to do a great job with player development for us, and that's how we're going to get this thing going to where we want to be again.
All right, Kris, thanks a lot for stopping by and sharing your thoughts about this tournament, the draft, and also your career as well.
Yeah, my pleasure, Ken. Appreciate it. Thank you. Enjoy Traverse City.
Always do. You know that.
I know. I've seen you on Twitter.
We're in the second intermission, 3-0 Red Wings over the Rangers. We'll be back. Start of the third in a moment.